Alrighty, so I'm back. I'm back doing live recording video on my channel. The last couple of video obviously has been pre-recorded because I've been out of town these last couple of days. But alas, today is the finally the day. I'm back doing a live recorded video, and we left off with talking about FC Dallas in the season preview. And just like what I said about DC United, I'm not going to be very, very high on FC Dallas heading into this season. I'm going to be a little bit down when it comes to this season preview, and I'm pretty sure Dallas fan can understand as well. There's a lot of concern right now if you're FC Dallas with the way that they lost a lot of tap in this offseason, especially on the attacking end, and that they have made some signings throughout this offseason as well, just like what we see DC United has had. But just like DC, most of these signing has been kind of underwhelming, and it seems like from what I've seen with some of the signings that they made this off season, they're once again leaning heavily toward the homegrown department, which I don't blame them for doing so because that's what Dallas has been doing throughout the years. And that if there is one team that I absolutely trust, that the fact that they can really lean on the homegrown pipeline and it will be successful, got to be this FC Dallas team. I mean, I said it over the years. This is considered to be the best academy in MLS, and I know Union fans and Red Bulls fans would like to have a word, but again, this is an academy that have produced not only some great young FC Dallas player, but also guys that are on the U.S. men's national team. Like I think literally maybe about half of that U.S. men's national team starter came from the FC Dallas Academy. That being said, last season though was not a great season for this team. In fact, they did not make it to the playoffs. It's one of the rare times that this team missed out on the playoffs. This team always tends to make the playoffs, but they finished with an 11th place finish with an 11-8-15 record, finished with 41 points. Their last playoff appearance was 2023, but the last time they won a playoff series was back in 2022. It was that PK shot win that they had against Minnesota in the first round. That is the last playoff series win. Their current head coach, of course, is Eric Creel after they decided to not promote Peter Lucien as the permanent head coach. So they decided to go with Eric Creel, who, one thing about Dallas when it comes to the head coach, they always like to promote within. And even though, this is not really exactly completely promote within because Eric Creel was the head coach of New Mexico United prior to this job. He is a guy that has history with FC Dallas, especially with the academy, and that's kind of how you get your application of being an FC Dallas head coach. Like literally, these last couple of hiring that they had are mostly guys that has a history within FC Dallas, and when it comes to their academy, and hasn't really been successful when it comes to doing that these kind of hiring. I mean that's depending on how you view it if you're a Dallas fan. I mean, most of them will probably say no, no, they haven't been ambitious when it comes to their hiring, and that these within hiring hasn't really resort to too much when it comes to this team being successful in the playoffs. But they're hoping this is going to be different, especially Eric Quill did really well last year with New Mexico United and playing a very exciting brand of soccer, which is something that Dallas fans has been desperately asking for after these last two seasons under Nico Estevez. Now, the current sporting director is Andre Zanota. I forgot to mention how long he's been there, but he's been there since 2019. Now let's take a look at the transfer because again they made a lot of signings, but there's a lot of player that is out of this team. It's almost like this team is going for a complete overhaul. We start off with Pedro Martins that they made a signing from their MLS Next Pro team. Then you got Romero Benetti. Oh, by the way, I don't think he's actually coming from the North Texas SC player Pedro Martins. I might be wrong though, but they got Romero Benetti on a free transfer. They got Lalo Abubakar as a free agent as well. They also traded for Anderson Julio from RSL. They also traded for Jack Moore from Nashville SC. And then in terms of the blockbuster trade that they had with Jesus Ferreira going to Seattle, part of the trade involving them getting Leo True from the Seattle Sounders. Then they also have Michael Colide, who is a homegrown, Malachi Molina as a homegrown as well, Anthony Ramirez as a homegrown, and Daniel Braun as a homegrown, and Diego Pepe, the brother of Ricardo Pepe, also joined this team as a homegrown, and Enzo Newman, who they of course picked up in the Super Draft, also with this team. So again, not surprising that they once again are heavily leaning toward the homegrown pipeline. We'll see whether or not if some of these players are going to see real minutes or they're going to be playing with the North Texas SC team in the MLS Next Pro. Now, looking at the players that's no longer with this team, there's a lot. Starting with Eugene Ansem, who had his option declined. Same with Liam Frazier and Omar Gonzalez. They also decided not to renew the contract of Asar Aramandi. This is a surprising one because I think Aramandi, yes, he is getting older, but he's still a vital part to this team. And it's a shame the fact that he kind of suffered that injury last season. And I think that they're probably thinking that that injury is serious enough where he's not going to be the same. But at the same time, with how good he's been with this Dallas team, I'm surprised they decided not to renew his contract. Then they also declined the option of Amit Korka and also Jimmy Maurer. They decided not to renew his contract. He's now with the Houston Dynamo. That is, and then they also declined the option of Isaiah Parker. They also did not renew the contract of Juan Malik Henry Scott, another player that has their option declined, and then Dante Sealy also had his option declined. That's a bit of a surprising one too, because when they brought Dante Sealy back last season, I thought he was going to be a big part once again for this team as well, but they decided not to uh, renew his contract. The same goes with Ima Tomasi as well. He was an outstanding player for this Dallas team, especially in the back line, but they decided to decline his option. So again, the question about this Dallas team, what are they going to do with their back line? Are they going to kind of almost purge this back line and just start from new? And in some way, they kind of aren't doing it. So we'll talk about another big defender for this Dallas team that is no longer with this team in just a bit. But they also traded Sam Junka to RSL, and then of course the big trade that we saw this off season involving Jesus going to the Seattle Sounders, one of the biggest blockbuster trade that they had this off season, and the same goes for Paul Arriola. He's also going to be going to the Seattle Sounders as well. Then you also have Thomas Bendetka going on loan to New Mexico United, and then Kosi to Fari going to LAFC via trade. That is also another big surprise because I thought even as down of a year that Tafari has had, I thought he was still going to be a big part of this defense. And that again, you were thinking about this team whether or not if they're going to bring back their back line after a lackluster season that they had, and maybe hope that last year was just kind of a down year. Well, it doesn't seem like that is the case with one of their most vital defender now no longer with this team and traded to LAFC. And then of course another big piece that they lost, and probably the biggest piece that they lost this offseason is Alan Velasco going to Boca Junior. And again, the money that they of course receive, it's the right call. They it was too much to not taken, especially with the way that coming off with a torn ACL injury, you will never know that whether or not if he can continue to have an incredible season to a point where you can get almost same amount of money that Boca Junior, or maybe even more than they offer. So I think Dallas thought, yeah, let's not take that risk. We're just going to sell our best player. And again, this is where yes, it's great that you're selling your best player, and it's great that Dallas is following the formula like what a lot of MLS team want to be, or at least what the league wants a lot of these MLS team to do, which is selling their best player for big profit. But it's all about now how you can basically use that profit to replace some of these players that they lost. And again, this team they haven't really quite done that this offseason, and that's where again the concern has to be with Dallas fan, the fact that if you look at this team right now on paper, there's no way this team could come anywhere close to being a playoff team, especially the talent that they lost on the attacking end and also on the defensive end as well. Now, looking at the first 5 games, the first game of the season is actually El Capitan against the Houston Dynamo. So I think this is the first time that we see the Texas Derby as the season opener, but straight off the bat, they got a Copa Tijuana match and an El Capitan match against the Houston Dynamo on the road. Then they go on the road again to face against Colorado before playing at home against the Chicago Fire, before playing at home against Vancouver, and then go on the road to play against Real Salt Lake. So again, when it comes to the teams that they have to face in the beginning, pretty much every single team except for Chicago did not made it to the playoffs last season. So not an easy start for this Dallas team. Looking at the last 5 games, they play their final Copa Tias match against Austin FC. Could be a match we might see Dallas have a chance to clinch the Copa Tias once again, as they have done in recent year when they face against Austin. Then they play against Colorado before going on the road to play against the Portland Timbers. Then they play against the defending MLS Cup champion, that is the Galaxy. And then they go on the road for the final game of the season, and their decision day match is going to be on the road against the Vancouver White cap. So not easy stretch down the stretch as well. And again, as I mentioned before with this team, they need to make more signing, especially more attacking signing if this team wants to once again get themselves back into the playoffs. Because again, when you look at the talent wise, unless if there's going to be a random homegrown player that break out for this Dallas team, which I have a feeling that could be the case, knowing this team has had that history of doing so, it doesn't seem like this team is going to make it to the playoffs. And again, it's been a while since this team had missed out the playoffs the last two years, and especially the direction. The ownership seems to be very cheap with this team. It's no wonder why a lot of Dallas fans are very frustrated with this team heading into this season, and not a lot have a lot of optimism that this team is going to do well. Now, looking at the strength of this team, it's got to be the number 9 and the goalkeeping spot. So if there's one talented player and one difference maker that they still have is Petr Musa. Last season, 15 goals that he scored last year. He was a guy that even without a real playmaker, he was definitely creating the chances, and he is a guy that, just like what I said about Hugo Kuipers last season, it took a while for him to get going, but once he got going, it was worth every single penny that Dallas, of course, pay him last off season, and I think he's going to be good again. The goalkeeping is another strength area. I know Martin Paz had a down year last season. I expect him to bounce back this season. I think he's going to have a good season, and again, he's a very underrated goalkeeper. He's a goalkeeper that not a lot of people talk about how good he is, and he's going to have to be that this season as well, because as we'll talk about the weakness of this team, yeah, pretty much everywhere. I mean, there's really not much talent other than those two position. Maybe I would say the on the midfield spot, they're looking pretty good in that spot as well. That is, of course, if they of course have Patrick Delgado playing that spot, and also if we're gonna see Paxton Palmico actually stay healthy for a bit. I mean, he's been pretty much made out of glass throughout his career so far, and yeah, other than that, it's pretty much everywhere. There's a lot of hole in this roster that needs to be addressed before the season begins. So the three big question of this team, obviously, who's going to replace Alan Velasco? That has to be the biggest priority of this team. I mean, the lack of number 10, that is definitely concern. Unless, of course, are they going to play Paxton Palmico kind of as a hybrid 10? And if they want to do that, I mean, they better hope he doesn't get injured relatively quickly, because that's been kind of the theme of his career. And what a sad career it's been for Paxton Palmico. He was once again, or he was once supposed to tout it as the next best thing, not only for this Dallas team, but also for the U.S. men's national team. But just so many injuries that he has been dealt with throughout his career that has really derailed his chance. Will this maybe be his breakout year? Especially if they're going to implement him into that 10 role this season. But other than that, I don't really have a lot of answer of who is actually going to play in that position. Can the homegrown talent at least mitigate the lack of talent elsewhere on the roster? That is a big maybe. Again, this team has a history of developing great young homegrown players just out of the blue. A lot of these players that used to play for North Texas SC, they go to MLS and they have success as well. Not to mention, North Texas SC last season, didn't they also won the MLS Next Pro as well? This team is a very deep team, and can definitely be a team that have a lot of players that could be already MLS ready. So that maybe can at least give Dallas fan a little bit of optimism. The fact that some of the homegrown talent, and because of how talented this academy has been over the year, will kind of mitigate in terms of the lack of talent that this team has elsewhere on the roster. And then the last one I would say is a big question is about Eric Quill himself. Again, one of the the reason why Dallas hire him is that that he has that tactics and also that history on playing some exciting brand of soccer. I mean, just look at last year with New Mexico United, how entertaining that team was in the USL Championship. Can he replicate that with this team, especially with the lack of talent that is? We've seen before where a head coach might have the right ideas and might have the right tactics to how to play, but you need the players to do so, and you need the talent to play that system. And more times or not, when coaches are not given those players and the talent to do so, yeah, it just kind of fall apart relatively quick. So that's going to be the big question I think Eric Quill is going to have to figure out. Other than that, the expectation of this team. I mean, I wrote playoffs with a question mark because with the state of this roster, I don't know if they can make it to the playoffs as well. I talk about how in the East there's a lot a good team in the Eastern Conference as well. Not a lot of people talk about how the West can be strong as well this season. That is, and again, with the talent that they had, unless if they have some great homegrown player that will break out through this team, or the fact that this team will have that self believe the fact that the team of course is the star, and I know I'm stealing RSL moniker a little bit here, but if they have the good chemistry, and if Eric Will can just almost find a way to uh to 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 overperform with this team. I don't know if playoffs is definitely in the future for this Dallas team, at least with the roster that they currently have. But also developing another good homegrown players, that's always going to be an expectation for this Dallas team. They always expect to have the next great homegrown player that's going to come through the academy, play well with the Dallas team before selling them for a big amount of money. Well, there you have it. That is pretty much it. Looking at FC Dallas in the season preview. As always, let me know in the comments below. What do you think of this team? And if you're a Dallas fan, what do you think the strength, the weakness, and the free big question, and also the expectation is for this team heading into this 2025 MLS season? But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.